Hey guys, I'm back. Today I'm going to be going and reporting to my superiors at House Hapu. Then I'll be continuing on with the main quests. I feel today is a great day to continue our discussion about the Old Mary Dominion. If you watched last episode, you know how their history up until they acquired the kingdoms of elsewhere. After that, they really didn't do shit for ever, until the Great War, where France, a ambassador from the Old Mary Dominion, told them to
Greetings to you, Dunmer.
disband the blades.
Welcome, friend.
Leave them the fuck alone.
Are you the one I've heard talk about?
Is the Queen of the Ignis Egg Mine dead? You killed the Queen. Good. Take these 500 drinks with my attitude. I'm gonna ask for advancement. You have a lot of business experience, but some say you don't have the skill to use what you know. House Druin sells more gar hides than House Halu. Someone needs to convince the alchemist in Vivek to buy buy only imported House Halu gar hides. Fuck. I'm actually gonna check my stats. Here. Let's see. Part of the temple is a layman. Great House Halu retainer. I want to be an oathman. Oathman are fucking cool sounding. I mean, hey, I'm an oathman. 30 speed, 30 agility. I have that. I need one of these crafts at level 20. Speechcraft, Mercantile, Marksman, Short Blade, Light Armor, Security. Oh boy, this is gonna be fucking hard. I'm gonna have to speak to fuckers more. Oh. This guy is gonna be very important.
I am never too busy for a good talk.
House Halu. This guy will eventually sell me my house.
Welcome, friend. Are you the one I've heard?
So I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna go Vivek for a while. Not until the bot requires me to again. Or I feel like it. Probably the latter though. So we're gonna go to the Mage's Guild now. To work on some shit. The shittiest shit. That is early main plot of Morrowind. I think it's pretty pointless.
Do you have something to say, Outlander?
Not pointless, but sort of like repetitive. The early parts of the plot, like when you're working directly under the blades.
How may I help you, Don?
No interruptions. How many times? Oh, you're one of Curious's associates. That's a different matter. Curious and I have a very satisfactory arrangement, and I'm sure we can come to some sort of agreement if you'll complete a little errand for me. The errand, then, is very simple. I need the skull of Livius Ariano. You'll find it in Ariano Ancestral Tomb, but take care. Primitive prejudices, but take care not to upset the natives. Dunmer have some peculiar primitive prejudices against necromancy, and take grave objection to unauthorized tomb visits. In the Empire, necromancy is a legitimate discipline, though body and spirit are protected property and may not be used without permission of the owner, but in Morrowind, the Dunmer loathed necromancers and put them to death. That's absurd, of course, since the Dunmer summoned their own dead to guard tombs and defend the family. Sacred necromancy is righteous, while philosophical necromancy is evil. It's primitive superstition, that's all. He was no one special, a journeyman enchanter. There may be many skulls in Ariano too, but you'll have no problem recognizing Lova's skull from the ritual markings. It's in... Now, I know where that is. That's next to, Pugilid. I'm just gonna sleep until healed.
You Inma.
Oh, fuck. Please keep your fucking distance from this bitch. Get wrecked, son. An attempt was made on my life as I tried to arrest. I do not know who wishes me dead, but the attack should probably be reported to a guard. Fucking end. Now, I'm gonna start wearing his armor, because believe it or not, that's really good armor for literally being nowhere in the game at all. Let's see how I look. I like this design of the Dark Brotherhood's head more than the other designs, like in the later games. Anyways, that was pretty dank.
Under sun and sky, Outlander, we greet
Under sun and
you
sky,
warmly.
Outlander, we greet you warmly.
All right,
I
I'm
always
intrigued.
like that.
Go ahead.
I always liked how the Dunmer said things. Under sun and sky, Outlander, we greatly warm you. We warmly greet you. It's a really important part of their religion. In fact,
I can
AM,
spare a few moments.
Mother of the Stars, Sek, Wizard of the Ocean, Vivek, Lord of the Middle Air, but you on the land you stand on. Pretty cool. So anyways, the Great War happens, and in the Great War, of course, fucker's gonna die. Primarily Cyrodiilics and Nords, but people die. The only fatal mistake was in Hammerfell. That was a war of attrition. Because, quite frankly, I don't think the Aldmeri expected such cowardness from the Regatta.
May I help you?
I'm gonna switch with latest from House of Lugar traders have had some hard times the last few years. That's relevant, I guess. Yeah. So after they like fucking wiped the Empire, the Empire surrenders and accepts the gold white contract.
What do you think of Balmora, Outlander?
And it outlawed the worship of Talos, which at this point in time, when I'm playing Morrowind, the Nords don't even worship.
I am never
So the
too
concept
busy.
of him being a fucking Nordic hero is bullshit, since none of the Nords worship him. He's a Cyrodiilic god. In Skyrim, the Nords are worshipping Cyrodiilic gods. Right now, they're worshipping the Nordic gods. So, within the next 200 years, their religion is literally almost wiped out.
Why walk when you can run?
don't think I need to ride. I really don't. But I do need to read some books. The Real Bazarov. The Real Bazarov, Part 1, by Anonymous. 500 years ago, in Mournhold, City of Gems, there lived a blind widow and her only child, a tall, strappingly young man. He was a miner, as was his father before him, a common laborer for the mines of the Lord of Mournhold, where his ability in Magica was small. The work was honorable but paid poorly. His mother made and sold cranberry cakes at the city market to help eke out of their living. They did well enough, she said. They had enough to fill their bellies, and no one could wear more than one suit of clothing at a time. And the roof leaked only when it rained. But Simeus would have liked more. He hoped for a lucky strike at the mines, which would garner him a large bonus. In his free hours, he enjoyed hosting a mug of ale in the tavern of his friends and gambling with them at cards. He also drew his eyes inside of more than one pretty elven lass, although none held his interest for long. He was a typical young Dunmer of peasant descent, remarkable only for his size. There was rumor that he had a bit of Nordic blood in him. Ew, fuck the Nords. In Symmachus' 13th year, there was a great rejoice in Mournhold. A girl child had been born to the lord and lady. A queen, the people sang. A queen is born to us. For among the people of Mournhold, the birth of an heiress is a sure sign of future peace and prosperity. When the time came for the royal child's rite of naming, the mines were closed, and Smish dashed home to bathe and dressed in his best. "I'll rush straight home and tell you about it," he promised his mother, who would not be able to attend. She had been ailing, and besides there be a great crush of people, as all Mournhold turned out to be part of the bus event. Mournhold's a small city inside the city of Almalexia, by the way. Like, it's big by this game standards, that, like, it's not as big as Vivek, but it's a little bigger than, like, Balmara, although it may have a little more people, like, just a little. "My son," she said, "before you go, fetch me a priest or a healer, else I may pass from this mortal plane ere your return." Smithers crossed to her palate at once and noted anxiously that her forehead was very hot, her breathing shallow. He pried loose a slat of wooden floor under which a small quart of shaving was kept. There wasn't nearly enough to pay a priest for healing. You'd have to give what they had and owe the rest. Samus snatched up his cloak and hurried away. The streets were full of folk hurrying to the sacred trails, but the temples were locked and buried. Closed for the ceremony. Read all the signs. Smatras elbowed his way through the mob and managed to overtake a brown-robed priest. "After the rite, brother," the priest said. "If you have gold, I shall surely attend your mother. My lord has bidden all clerics to attend, and I, for one, have no wish to offend him. My mother is desperately ill." Cetrus pleaded. "Surely my lord would not miss one lowly priest." "True, but the archcanon will." The priest said nervously, tearing his robe loose from Cetrus, a desperate grip and vanishing into the crowd. Simeus tried other priests, even a few mages, but with no better result. Armed guards marched through the streets, pushed him aside with their lances, and Simeus realized that the royal process was approaching. As the carriage bearing the city's rulers drew abreast, Simeus rushed over to the crown and shouted, my lord, my mother is dying. I forbid her to do so on this glorious night." The Lord shouted, laughing and scattering corn into the town. Smash was close enough to smell the wine on the royal breath. On the other hand, the carriage, his lady clutched the babe to her breast, and stared her stilt eyes at Smashers. Her nostrils flared with disdain. "Guard," she cried, "remove this oaf." Rough hands seized Shamanish. He was beaten and left dazed on the side of the road. Smasher's head aching, while the wake of the crowd witnessed the rite of naming on top of a hill. You could not see the brown-robed clerics or the blue-robed mages gathered near the high-boned folk far below. Barzarov. The name came dimly to Semyonov's ear as the high priest lifted the swaddled baby and proffered her to the twin moons on either side of the horizon, Joan rising, Jode setting. Behold Lady Bazaroff born to the land of Mournhold. Grant her thy blessing, thy counsel, ye kind gods, that she may ever rule well over Mournhold, its ken and its weal, its kith and its ilk. Bless her, bless her. All people intone along with her lord and lady, hands upraised. Only Demetrius stood still, head bowed, knowing in his heart that his dear mother was gone. His dear mother was gone, and in silence he swore a mighty oath that he should be his lord's bane, in vengeance for his mother's needless death. The child, Vesa, he should have for his own bride, and that his mother's grandchildren should be born to rule over Mournhold. After the ceremony, he watched impassively as the royal procession returned to the palace. He saw the priest whom he first spoken. The man came gladly enough now to return the gold. Demetrius had promised more afterwards. They found his mother dead. The priest sighed and tucked the pouch of gold away. I'm sorry, brother. That's all right. You can forget the rest of the gold. That's all I can do here, likely. Give me back my money! Such a snarl. You've done not to earn it. He lifted his right arm threateningly. The priest backed away, about to utter a curse, but Sanimus struck him across the face before more than 3 words had left his mouth. He went down heavily, striking his head sharply on one of the stones that formed a fire pit. He died instantly. Sanimus snatched up the gold and fled the city. As he ran, he muttered one word over and over, like a sorcerer's chant. Bazaroff, he said. Bazaroff, Bazaroff. Bazaroff stood, like this is probably going to be later. Bazaroff stood on one of the balconies of the palace, staring down at the courtyard where soldiers milled, dazzling in their armor. Presently they formed in order, ranks, and cheered as their parents. The lord and lady, emerged from the palace, clad and head to toe in ebony armor, long purple-dyed fur cloaks flowing behind them, splendidly caparisoned. Shining black horses were brought for them, and they mounted and rode to the courtyard gates and turned to salute her. Bazaroff, they cried. Bazaroff, our beloved, farewell. The little girl blinked black tears and waved one hand bravely. Her favorite stuffed animal, a gray wolf cub she called Wolfen, clutched to her breast with the other. She had never been parted from her parents before, and had no idea what it meant, save that there was war in the west, and the name Tiber Septim on everyone's lips, spoken in hate and dread. Bazaroff, the soldiers cried, lifting their lances and swords and bows. Her dear parents turned and rode away, the knights trailing in their wake until the courtyard was nearly empty. Some time after, a day when Bazaroff was shaken awake by her nurse, dressed hurriedly and borne from the palace. All she could remember, the for a time, was seeing a huge shadow with burning eyes filling the sky. She was passed from hand to hand. Foreign soldier appeared, disappeared, and sometimes reappeared. Her nurse vanished and was replaced by strangers. Some more strange than others. There were days, or it may have been weeks, of travel. One morning, she awoke the step of a coach into a cold place, with a large gray stone castle amid empty, endless gray-green hills, covering a patchy with gray-white snow. She clutched Wolfen to her breast in both hands and stood blinking and shivering at the gray dawn, feeling very small and very dark in all this empty and endless space, this grayless white space. She and Hannah, a brown-skinned, black-haired maid who had been traveling with her for several days, lived inside the keep. A large gray-white woman with icy gray golden hair was standing by a hearth in one of the rooms. She stared at Bazaroff with dreadful, bright blue eyes. She's very black, isn't she? The woman remarked to Hannah. I've never seen a dark elf before. I don't know much about them myself, my lady, but this one's got red hair and a temper to match. I can tell you that. Take care. She bites and worms. I'll soon train her out of that, the other woman sniffled. And what's that filthy thing she's got? Ugh. The woman snatched Wolfman and threw him into the blaze of fire. Bazarov stricken and would have flung herself after him, but was held back despite her attempts to bite and claw her captors. Poor Wolfen was reduced to a tiny heap of charred ash. Bazarov grew like a weed, transplanted to a Skyrim garden. A ward of Count Sedan and his wife, Lady Igna, outwardly, that is, she thrived. But always there was a cold and empty place in between. I've raised her as my own daughter, Lady Igna won't and sat gossiping when neighboring ladies came to visit. But she's a dark elf. What can you expect? Bazarov was not meant to overhear these words. At least she thought she was not. Her hearing was keener than that of her Nordic host. Other, less desperate, desirable dark elf traits eventually included pilfering, lying, and a little misplaced magic. Just a small fire spell here and there, here and a levitation spell there, and she grew older. A keener interest in boys and men who provide very pleasant sensations. And to her astonishment, gifts as well. Igna disapproved of this last for reasons uncomprehensible to Bazarov, so she was careful to keep it as secret as possible. She's wonderful with children, Igna added, referring to her 5 sons, all younger than Bazarov. I don't think she'll ever let them come to harm. A tutor had been hired when Joni was 6 and Bazarov 8, and they took lessons together. She would have liked to train in arms as well, but the very idea scandalized Count Savant and Lady Igna, so Bazarov was given a small bow and allowed to play target shooting with the boys. She watched them at arms practice when she could, sparred with them when no grown-up folk were about, and she knew she was as good or better than they were. Well, yeah, she's a fucking dumber. She's very proud, thought. Isn't she? One of the ladies would whisper to Igna. And Bazarov, pretending not to hear, but not slightly in agreement. She could not help but feel superior to the Count and his lady. There was something about them that provoked contempt. Afterwards, she came to learn that Sven and Igna were distant cousins of Dark Moonkeep's last titled residents. She was finally understood. They were imposters, not rulers at all. At least they were not raised to rule. This thought made her strangely furious at them. A good, clean hatred, quite detached from resentment. She came to see them as disgusting, repellent insects, who could be despised but never feared. Once a month, a courier came from the Emperor, bringing a small bag of gold for Sen and Igna, and a large bag of dried mushrooms and marmalade for Bazarov, her favorite treat. On these occasions, she was always made to look presentable, or at the very least presentable as a skinny dark elf could be made to look in Igna's eyes before being summoned at the courier's presence for a brief interview. The same courier seldom came twice, but they all looked at her much the same way a farmer would look at a hog waiting for the market. In the spring of her 16th year, Bazarov thought the courier looked as if she were at last ready for the market. Upon her reflection, she decided she did not wish to be marketed. The stable boy, Straw, a big, muscular, blond man, clumsy, gentle, affectionate, and rather simple, had been urging her to run off for some weeks now. Bazarov stole a bag of gold the courier left, took the mushrooms from the storeroom, disguised herself as a boy in one of Jonah's old tunics and a pair of her cast-off breeches. And on one fine spring night, she and the Straw took the two best horses from the stable and rode hard through the night towards Whiteland, the nearest city of any importance to the place where Straw wanted to be. But Mournhold and Morrowind also laid eastward, and drew Bazarov as a lone stone draws iron. In the morning, they abandoned their horses at Bazarov's, and she knew they would be missed and tracked down. and she hoped to throw off any pursuers. They continued on foot till late afternoon, keeping to the side of roads, slept several hours in an abandoned hut. They were at dusk when they came to the right one's city gates just before dawn. Bazarov had prepared a pass of sorts for Straw, a makeshift document stating an errand to a temple in the city for a local village lord. She herself glided over the wall with the help of a levitation spell. She had reasoned correctly, as it turned out that by now the gate guards would have been alerted to keep an eye out for a young dark elven girl and a Nordic boy traveling together. On the other hand, unaccompanied countryside yokel like Straw were a common enough sight. Alone, with papers, it was unlikely that he would draw attention. Her simple plan went out smoothly. She met Straw at the temple, which was not far from the gates. She had been to right one on a few previous occasions. Straw however, had never been more than a few miles from Sven's estate, which was his birthplace. Together, they made their way to a run-down inn in the poorer quarters of Right One. Glowed, cloaked, and hooded against the morning chill, Bazarov's dark skin and red eyes were not apparent, and no one paid any heed to them. They entered the inn separately. Straw paid the innkeeper for a single cubicle and an immense meal and 2 jugs of ale. Bazarov sneaked in a few minutes later. They ate and drank together gleefully, rejoicing in their escape, and made love vigorously on the narrow cot. Afterwards, they fell into an exhausted, dreamless sleep. They stayed for a week at Whiterun. Straw earned a bit of money running errands, and Bazarov burglarized a few houses at night. She continued to dress as a boy. She cut her hair short and dyed her flame-red tensions jet black to further the disguise, and kept out of sight as much as possible. There were a few dark elves in Whiterun. One day, Straw got them work as temporary guards for a merchant caravan traveling east. One armed sergeant looked over her nervously. "Ha," he chuckled. "A dark elf, ain't you? Like selling a wolf to guard the sheep, isn't that? Still, I need arms, and we ain't moving near enough tomorrow, and so you can betray us to your folk. Our homegrown bandits would as fain cut your throat as mine." The sergeant turned to give Straw an appraising look when he spun back abruptly towards Bazarov, whipping out his longsword, but she had the dagger out in the twinkling of an eye, and was a defensive stance. Straw drew his own knife and circled around the man's rail. The sergeant dropped his blade and chuckled again. "Not bad, kids, not bad. How are you with yon bow, dark elf?" Bazarov demonstrated her prowess briefly. "Aye, not bad. Not bad tall. Ye be keen of the eye by night, boy, and of the heart tall times. A trusty dark elf makes a fine man as any could ask for. I know. I served under Sarmashus himself before I lost this arm and got invalidated out of the Emperor's army. We could betray them, I know. Folks say they pay well," Straw said. Later, as they bedded down for their last night on the ramshack lodge, we'll rob them ourselves. They were very rich, those merchants are. Very. Bazarov laughed. "Whatever would we do with so much money? And besides, we need their protection for traveling quite as much as they need ours. We could buy a little farm, you know. You and me, Barry, and settle down. All nice like. Peasant." Brynolf thought scornfully. Scott was a peasant and a Harbund, nothing but a peasant. Harbund, nothing but peasant dreams. But all she said was, "Not here, child. We're too close to Darkmoon still. We still have other chances. Farther east." The caravan went only as far east as Sungard. Sungard is west. I mean, if you play Skyrim, and even in the original one, it was west. White One was east to Sungard. Like, it's straight up in the Reach, It's at the border of the Falkreath beach borderland, and was a sort of a thing they used as like a reinforcement in case like High Rock invaded. Doesn't make any sense. The Emperor Tiber VII, I had done much in the way of building relatively safe and regularly patrolled highways, but the tolls are steep, and this particular caravan kept to the side roads as much as possible to avoid them. This exposed them to the hazards of the wayside robbers, both human and orcish, moving in brigade bands of various races. But since there were perils of trade and profit, they had 2 such encounters before reaching Sungard, and ever since Bazrov's keen ears warned them with plenty of time to circle around and surprise their lookers, and a night attack by a mixed band of Khajiit, humans, and Boston. The latter were a skilled band, even Bazrov did not hear them sneaking up in time to give much warning. This time the fighting was fierce, the attackers were driven off, but 2 of the caravan's other guards were slain. Shul got a nasty cut on his thigh, before he had Bazrov managed to gash his Khajiit assassin's throat. Bazrov rather enjoyed the life. The Valerius sergeant had taken a liking to her. She spent most of her evenings sitting around the campfire listening to his tales of campaigning in Marlin with Tiber VII and General Samars. The Samars had been made general after Mournhold fell, and the sergeant said, "He's a fine soldier boy, Samars is, but there's more to soldiery involved that Marlin business, if you take my mean. But well, you know about that aspect." No, I don't remember, Bazrov said, trying to sound nonchalant. "I've lived most of my life in Skyrim. My mother was married to Skyrim man, and they're both dead, though. Tell me, what happened to the Lord and Lady of Mournhold?" The sergeant shrugged. "I ain't never heard. Dead aspect. 'Twas a lot of fighting before the armorers got side. Pretty quiet now, maybe too quiet. Like a calm before storm. Say, boy, you going back there?" "Maybe." Troop us that shoes aren't irresistible to Marlin and Mournhold, like a moth to a burning house. Straw sensed it and was unhappy about it. He was unhappy anyway, if they could not bed together, and as she was supposed to be a boy. Bazrov rather missed it too, but not as much as Straw did, seemingly. The sergeant wanted them to sign on for the return trip, but gave them a bonus, nevertheless, when they turned the offer down, in parchments of recommendation. Shaw wanted to settle down permanently near Sungard, but Bazrov insisted on continuing their travel east. "I'm Queen of Mournhold by right," she said, unsure whether it was true or that was the daydream she had made up as a lost, bewildered wheel. "I want to go home. I need to go home." That at least was true. A few weeks they managed to get places by another caravan heading east. By early winter they were at Riften and nearing the Marlin border, but the weather had grown severe in the days past, where they were told no merchant caravans would spell forth till spring. Bazrov stood on top of the city walls and stared across the deep gorge that separated Riften from the snow-clad mountains guarding Marwyn, the Bielofi province of Marland. "Very," Straw said gently. "Mournhold's a long way off yet. Nearly as far as we've come already, and lands between are wild, full of wolves, bandits, and orcs, and still worse creatures. We'll have to wait for spring. There's Sigurd Tower," Bazrov said, referring to the dark elven township that had grown up around ancient Miniar guarding the border between Skyrim and Marland. "The bridge guards won't let me across, Barry. They're crack Imperial troops. They can't be bribed. If you go, you'll go alone. I won't try to stop you, but what do you do? Sigurd Tower is full of Imperial soldiers. Will you become a washerwoman for them, or a camp follower?" "No," Bazrov said slowly and thoughtfully. Actually, the idea was not entirely unfailing. She was sure she could earn a modest living by sleeping with the soldiers. She had a few adventures of that sort as they crossed Skyrim when she dressed as a woman and slipped away from Skull. She only looked a bit for variety. Skull was sweet but dull. She had been startled but extremely pleased. When the men she picked up offered her money afterwards, Straw had been unhappy about it, and though would shout at you while and sulk for days. Afterwards, if he caught her at it, he was quite jealous. He'd even threatened to leave her. Not that he ever did, or could. The Imperial Guards were a tough and brutal lot, by all accounts, and Bazrov had some very ugly stories during their checks. The ugliest of them, by far, had come from the lips of an ex-army veteran around a caravan campfire, and were proudly recounted. They had been trying to shock her and Skull. She realized, but she also comprehended that there was some truth behind the wild tales. Straw hated that kind of dirty talk. He hated it more than she had to hear it. But there was a part of him that was fascinated. Nevertheless, Bazarov sensed this and had encouraged Ska to seek out other women, but he said he didn't want anyone else but her. She told him candidly that she didn't feel that way about him, but she did like him better than anyone else. And why do you go with other men? Ska asked on one occasion. I don't know, Ska sighed. They saw dark elven women are like that. I don't know. Or maybe I do know. Or maybe I do know. Yes, I do. She turned away, kissed him affectionately. I guess that's all the explanation there is. Bye.